Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on replacing InfoPath forms with Nitro Studio. We'll get going in a minute here as people are coming in and joining it. But basically, to cover some background on the webinar, as you probably well know, there is a place to enter in questions, and we'll try and answer them during the webinar. If not, we'll get to them after. So we'll get going. It's 11:01. Let's get going here on the West Coast. So let's get going on it. So this webinar is about replacing InfoPath forms with Nitro Studio. So we'll cover some of the elements of replacing, some of the difficulties and challenges of replacing InfoPath forms, and primarily we'll focus on the Nitro Studio, which provides forms, workflows, reporting, and other elements to enhance your SharePoint and Office 365. I am Scott Restivo, President and CEO of Crow Canyon Software. Crow Canyon Software is in its 20th year. We have offices in California, which is where I am. We have offices in Rhode Island. We have a development group also in India, Hyderabad, India. We've been helping businesses succeed with focus specifically on SharePoint and Office 365 since they came out. SharePoint for about 12 years and Office 365 ever since that came out. We have business applications, we have custom solutions, and we also have this Nitro Studio, which we'll go into more detail in this webinar. The business applications we've been providing to companies around the world for many, many years, both in SharePoint and before that in other Microsoft technologies such as the Exchange public folders, et cetera, long time ago, but now primarily on SharePoint and Office 365 are what we could call your core business applications. These are full-fledged, out-of-the-box, ready-to-go applications. They're help desk, asset management, customer service. You can see the list right there. You can see our website at www.crowcanyon.com and the list of applications we have there. The focus today is not so much on these applications particularly, but on other elements we developed here, which is the Nitro Studio. Now, the Nitro Studio is an application creation platform. We developed this as an underlayer and foundation for our applications. We found that SharePoint needed more, so we created this application layer, you could call it. And this is a set of enhancements to SharePoint and Office 365 that allowed us to do quick, flexible development, and whether simple or complex. And we use it as the foundation for our applications. And now we have it available to the public for people who want to do their own application creation. And it wasn't created solely for InfoPath replacement. It was created for application creation and development on top of Office 365 and SharePoint, but it does make a good InfoPath replacement tool. So when we look at corporations, let's delve into the request management process here using SharePoint and Office 365. So what our focus has been for many years is on making organizations operate more effectively and efficiently through more robust and capable request management systems. So if you work in any organization, you well know that there's many, many kinds of requests coming in from all over the place. This is one of the essential activities of a business, whether it's internal requests or whether it's external from customers and suppliers and partners. There's issues, questions, inquiries, complaints, updates, all kinds of things have to go on. This is the activity of a business, and the way you can manage it most efficiently is, of course, a major question and activity that goes on as technology changes. There becomes different ways to do it in different ways. So you got IT, you have trouble tickets, help desk, hardware requests, those kind of things, facilities, moves, contract document management. Human resources has many, many types of requests and forms to deal with, purchasing, and there's other departments. And as you well know, I don't think I have to go into that too deeply, but you know that that's a very important part of business activity, and making it efficient and productive is very important. So requests can be very simple. This is just a ridiculously simple example. Make a request, get approval, fulfill it, and done. That's just a very stylized way of presenting what is really going on when we look at more complex workflows and how to implement them in these various technologies such as SharePoint Office 365. So you have leave requests, for example, is one example. Sometimes you have more complex things with onboarding. So really the question is, how do you implement these in a way that is effective, and can SharePoint and Office 365 be used for those purposes? Well, people have used other ways besides SharePoint, and still do, of course, many other ways to implement this kind of request management system. Request management being kind of a generalized term. You could call it help desk, service desk, support desk, customer support, whatever you want to call it. But basically, it's managing request issues, problems, and that kind of thing. People use email, they use paper forms, they use legacy systems, enterprise software, and then they find there's some problems with those, especially with email. People want to get off email and get into a more organized system. Paper forms, of course, we know the problems with those being manually routed, et cetera, et cetera. Legacy systems, and one thing I point out here is Lotus Notes, Microsoft Access. We're finding people are wanting to get off those systems also into some more organized way of doing things and enterprise software. Now, people are using these, but in SharePoint, what came out of when SharePoint first came out, there was this idea of using InfoPath forms to manage requests as a way to handle this problem that we're talking about here of request management, how to do it efficiently and effectively. So our Nitro Studio can replace any of these systems that you're looking at here: email, paper, PDFs, legacy systems, Lotus Notes, enterprise software, with a much more efficient system running inside of SharePoint and Office 365. But the focus of this webinar is going to be on replacing InfoPath forms, so I'll go into that somewhat here. Now, InfoPath forms came out in the early days of SharePoint as a way to provide a form solution on top of SharePoint. But already in 2014, and this is a statement that was off the web in 2018, saying that InfoPaths, as you probably all well know if you're coming to this webinar, they've been deprecated. Microsoft's advice here is encourage you to move off of it, migrate your forms to other solutions, and get on it before they totally lose support of the InfoPath form as a solution. And so rather than wait to the last minute, it's good to get going now and start making the planning and process of replacing those forms going on in the next, now and going forward in the next year or so. So why are they replacing InfoPath forms? Why should we take on this work? Well, one big thing is they're not mobile friendly. Other ones is the outdated look and feel. There's kind of a clunky technology, this XSN, XML files. Biggest one really is number 4. They're no longer being developed, or so I guess they're still supported to 2023 or so, but they're no longer being developed or enhanced or anything by Microsoft. And there was always difficulty connecting to other sources, other services, data sources needing coding. Now, anyone on this webinar who wants to comment on this and send me email or raise questions about this, I'm really glad to address those. This is a really interesting subject for me. I've been working as preparation for this webinar, going deeply into what are the possibilities, what Microsoft has to say, going to these SharePoint shows, talking to the MVPs, talking to Microsoft. So a wealth of information, and I'm just summarizing things here, and we can go into more detail on a one-on-one conversation if you'd like about this and what the issues are with InfoPath forms and why they should be replaced and what are the alternatives to do that. So given that InfoPath forms need to be replaced, how do you go about it? Well, one thing that has to be done is you have to catalog the forms and know what you have in place. And I put 2 things there, manually and with tools. Manually just means I know what I have, I'm going to write it down and keep a record of what forms are here, what they do. Maybe you don't have that many, but there are other tools. Rencor is a German-based company, Metalogic, you probably know about. They have tools that will go analyze your current SharePoint environment and list out the InfoPath forms. Once you get a catalog of the forms, the next thing is to go in and refine that catalog of forms so that you can say, do we need this form? Here's a form that we put in 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't know, whenever, and now do we still need it? Is it being used? And sometimes you can look at the amount of data that's accumulated with that form. You can look at usage statistics if you have those available with that form. And so what you're doing is looking at these forms and deciding, do I really need to replace it? Is it something that just can be abandoned? Or the third thing there, can it be enhanced or new features added to that form? So it's not just a matter of blindly moving one form to from InfoPath to, say, Nitro Studio forms. It's also about taking a bit of an analysis of saying, is this something that we need to reproduce in this new environment? Is it being used, or are there better ways of doing things? One example of that we ran across recently is that there is a university that we are working with that has a number of forms. They have students fill out the forms. The students fill out request to change a major or change a class or drop a class or whatever. And in the old InfoPath style, it was not connecting to any student database. They have, of course, a big student database outside of SharePoint that keeps a record of all the curriculum and classes, et cetera, about the student. Well, as we're moving to the new Nitro forms, we are incorporating data connections that bring in information. So the student puts in perhaps his or her ID or email address, some unique identifier, and then we're able to query the database and bring in information that is correct into the form. They were previously, with the InfoPath forms they were using, they were dealing with a lot of keyboard errors, fat fingering or misspellings or whatever, inaccurate data in the forms. And this way, by having it go directly to the database, they're improving it. So not only can you replace the InfoPath forms, you can also enhance them and make them better and more effective by using the technologies that are available that they either didn't implement in InfoPath for whatever reason or weren't available in InfoPath. And that's where we come back to that mobile idea. A lot of things were not available in the mobile interfaces with InfoPath, but they are with the Nitro forms and the solutions we're presenting here. So going on from that, you may not have noticed, but I did not use the word migration. I used the word replacement. And the thing is, migration implies there's some way to automatically move or from InfoPath forms or some of these other legacy forms, whether it's Lotus Notes, Access Services, some of these email spreadsheets kind of styles, automatically move to some new solution, whatever it is. Well, the thing is, especially with InfoPath forms, the way the data is structured and the forms are structured, there's no easy way to really migrate. I looked over and over and over to see if there was anybody out there. Also, our developers did an in-depth query into what could be done with InfoPath form migration. And it just turns out that you can catalog forms, you can catalog the forms, the schema, workflows, but you really can't migrate by magically pushing a button. That's just something we're all going to have to face with the InfoPath forms. Is there's no magically way, automatic, I wouldn't say magic really, but automatic way to convert the forms into whatever new system, such as the Nitro forms or whatever you're going to use. So that's okay, though, in the sense that it gives you a chance to, like I said about refining the catalog, to go in and determine, well, let's decide rather than just go everything from the old to the new. Let's take a chance to look at this and reassess some of the usefulness or productivity of those forms or practicality of those forms. Do they need to be refined and changed and moved around? Okay, so what we did here at Crow Canyon, we looked at the situation with SharePoint many years ago and decided that SharePoint out of the box has quite a number of capabilities and can be used for request management systems. So, but we also found that we needed to add a bunch more functionality to it. And this is where Nitro Studio evolved from the need for more and more functionality on top of SharePoint and Office 365 to make it into a true business application platform. So out of that, we developed the 3 pillars of application design, where we are focusing on 3 areas with our Nitro Studio that enhance and empower SharePoint. So the first thing is engaging and empower users through UI, UX, through the forms, the portals, interfaces. And next one is streamlining, automating business process and workflows with our workflow manager, our custom actions, and other tools. And then with reporting and analytics, we're looking to drive a continuous cycle of improvement. Now, this is a whole webinar in and of itself. We have some webinars online. Sometimes I give talks at the shows on this. This is something that I will not go into too much in depth. Basically, the idea is that when we developed Nitro Studio as a solution for request management, we looked at how to make the interface engaging and empowering, how to automate and streamline the workflows, how to drive continuous improvement through the reporting tools that are available in our application. Because Nitro Studio is not just a replacement for InfoPath or the other solutions, it's a full application development suite, you might say, that provides the full range. Our Crow Canyon software is an application development company. We know from over 20 years now of development what applications need, what the businesses need, and how that functions. It's not just, oh, we just want to replace InfoPath forms without thinking of the context those forms are enacting in and the processes and workflows that they're involved in. So it's a full set, and our Nitro Studio reflects that. So here's one example of a diagram that kind of explains where Nitro comes into play. You have SharePoint Office 365. You have our layer with its UI, UX, empower and engaging users through forms and portals, streamlining, automating processes with our workflow manager and custom actions and other elements of the Nitro Studio, and the reporting and analytics that are driving continuous cycle of improvement, and those are used to build our applications or custom development. And now the good news is that this Nitro layer has become Nitro Studio that now is available to you if you want to go as a power user, no code solution, just go in and start using our Studio apps to build applications or enhance ones you've done already with this extra functionality. So we'll go into that in a moment here, get right into the demo, and we'll go look at forms, workflows, the portal, and things like that, and delve into it. Now, one thing I want to say right now is, of course, thank you for joining this and hearing me out on this, but also the fact that we will be very glad to work with you one-on-one to understand your needs and requirements and how this studio and how our application development experience can work to make your business request management systems more efficient, more effective, more productive, and move it into a modern technology such as the mobile friendly, get off legacy apps, whether it's InfoPath forms, whether it's Lotus Notes, Microsoft Access, email, spreadsheet. It's really, it's really time to move away from those things and into what the new technology of SharePoint and Office 365 offer, especially when enhanced by our studio. I mean, this is what we do all day. We know this works. We know it's effective. We have many customers using it and getting real success out of it. So let's take a look at the Nitro Studio. Here we have, and I've just gone into a live demo now. This is a Nitro Studio running in Office 365. And this is a administrative screen where you can go in and start to use these apps in the ways that it can be configured and developed to make your application function. So this is kind of under the covers. So we're kind of lifted the hood of the car, looking at the engine. Let's go look at the car itself. And here we have an application, for example, in SharePoint, in Office 365. We have an application where this company is managing consumer and account requests coming in from, whether it's from customers or whether it's from people, consumers who bought their program, whatever, it doesn't matter. It could be internal requests, it could be complaints, issues, all those things don't matter. It's a request management system in a generic sense. So here it is in the interface we're seeing, but when I press this button here, application administration, we go over to the apps, and then we see what's underlying this application to make it perform and function the way that it needs to, the way that you want to, the way that it's going to replace whatever system you have there now, or if you don't have a system in place, then it'd be a new system for you, replacing InfoPath, Lotus Notes, emails, whatever. So let's look at this. We have, back to the main screen here, we have tickets. I go over here to all tickets. Here's all the tickets that are listed. When you open one new one up, you'll see a form. Now forms are forms, but also behind it is a number of workflows and activities going on. But let's take a look at the form itself. In this one, we have a tabbed form that has various information that they felt was needed in their request management system, the complaints, issues, problems coming in from these customers. You can see here that it's dynamic. If you click this, you're going to get a different tab with different information, the consumer. If you click account, it's going to go read it from some account, whether that's a SharePoint list or CRM system or whatever. It's going to bring in information about who the customers are and then who the contacts are for that customer. There, it's going to bring in and show that there. So you're already showing some interaction with this form with other systems, as well as a dynamic interaction, whether it's based on what fields were chosen here. So this is just one example of the kind of forms that can be built in Nitro Studio. This has a lot more functionality in it, such as cascaded lookups It has the ability to pull in information from AD automatically about whoever's filling out the form. It has many, many capabilities that you'd want in this application. And we'll go into the Forms Designer in a moment and show you the way this is constructed and how it ended up looking like this, and the capabilities you have to make your forms look the way you need to do. It could be very simple. It could be more complicated. So look at a few of the other tabs here. Now we have, again, cascaded lookup here, determine what brand and what product is being the complaint or issue or problem is about. You get some information from the consumer or from the account. And what this system does at the end is once they determine that it needs engineering, they can forward all this information to an engineering tracking system, also in SharePoint, that then they go in and decide what was the original problem. Why is the glue yellow, discolored? Why is the glue discolored? Why are the caps on the bottles leaking? Why was that case sent to the wrong vendor, wrong supply, wrong woodworking shop, and all kinds of things like that that they can use to drive that cycle of improvement we're talking about. So we're using the form to gather that information. Also, as it goes through its progress, we have the form capturing information about who's assigned to, what the status is, priority, and these are very, very flexible as to add whatever forms you want. So if you're looking at your InfoPath form and you say, oh, it has these fields on it, well, you just very easy to add them into our into these Nitro forms like very easily. One thing that helps the migration, replacement of InfoPath forms is the fact that you need a forms designer that's very easy to add and construct the forms the way you want. And that is what we provide with our Nitro Forms Designer. You also relate this form to other areas, pulling information in from different sources and different lists inside of SharePoint. Okay, rather than beat that to death right now, let's go into the Nitro Forms and look at the Forms Designer here to see how these capabilities are built in and how you can use this Forms Designer to build the kind of forms that you want or need. So here we have the Forms Designer, the Nitro Forms Designer. It has various, it's a WYSIWYG. It's a, WYSIWYG designer. What you see is what you get. And it has the main form in the middle, and then has various controls on the left, right, and the ribbon up above. So when you go to layout and template and theme, you can come in and change colors. You can change the group columns as tabs or sections. You can decide how to column. Many, many controls on how you want this form to look. So for instance, we went to sections. Now it has sections instead of tabs. If we wanted the sections not to just display a line, now we have that going on right there rather than having the labels on each section. So all kinds of interesting things like that you can do with this. And you could go back to tab very easily. Each tab has conditions on here. You have what the title is, number of columns, position. If you want to go to 2 columns, you could do that. Well, for instance, this one's on 2 columns right here. This one's 2 columns. You could do labels and different, so you have a lot of capabilities to structure the form how you want and what is most useful and interesting and accessible to the student, so you get to the user in order to provide it as a way to enter information the way you want. So many other possibilities here. And let's go into how fields are added. So here's all the fields listed, the columns as they call them in SharePoint, listed here in that list we're working on. We're working on the tickets list. We're building a form for the tickets list. And here's the form. And here's, for instance, columns that have not been added. So we might want to add on a column. Maybe we want to add on a ticket source, where'd the person come, something like that. And then we can have a drop list of what those are, and that would be added on here. If we didn't like it there, we can easily move it down here. So it's very much a drag and drop, easily configured form tool. Makes it very, very easy to add or even delete or move around the fields that are on here. So as you construct it, you can construct it to have the display look the way you want or need it to perform the functions you want. Now, in our system, you can have new form, edit form, and display as 3 different forms that are slightly different or quite a bit different depending on who the audience is. You can also have it just be one form that's used consistently throughout the application. It's up to you. Now, another thing you can do with this is you can go in and decide with your permissions here who gets to see what tab, and it could be by user, it could be by field that's selected. Okay, let me show you what I mean here in detail. So now we have show the consumer tab for everyone when the type of ticket is equal to consumer. That's that checkbox we had at the top. But you can also say show it only to this group when these conditions are met. I'll show this tab only to this group all the time. So you can do a lot with the permissions to control the view of the form. You can also do that on an individual field right here by doing the permissions here and setting permissions here to show that that will only show up when that conditions are met or if that particular person is logged in. So a lot you can do with that. Let's go over here to the forms and add a column, consumer name here should be in this. I don't know why it isn't, but it should be. There we go. So consumer name, you could add that right in, publish it, and it becomes part of the form right then and there. So that's very easy. Now, another thing that goes on here that's even more sophisticated, say we're in display. I'm going to continue without saving. You can do that later. So if we go over to display, we can now add on buttons. So here you have an escalate. So let me explain that a little bit and show we're moving more into workflows and custom actions when we do this. But let me go back to the main system, go back to the all tickets here. And when we open up a ticket, we can now take actions based on what we put there. So we have this escalate button right here now. So that means we can automatically escalate it. We could add any series of actions up here also so that the person can come in and automate and streamline processes. Part of that whole idea with the workflows, with the workflow automation, streamlining, is that you don't want to go in and do all this stuff. You just want to simply escalate it. Hey, press escalate and escalate it. Well, what's escalation? Well, that's decided here in the Nitro forms where you have this button. It's tied to the custom action called escalate, which was defined in the custom actions part of our Nitro Studio. So if I go to Nitro Studio and I go to custom actions, there's a custom action for this list of tickets called escalate. And that was set up previously to put that button in there. And it's going to say escalate is a series of actions that are performed when you press that button. So when you press the button, it's going to do these things. It's going to set the priority to high, reassign it to Pavan, set the due date to today, send an email to James. I mean, all these different things you can do simply by pressing the button. You've now kicked off all these actions. You're automating a lot of activity here easily by just simply adding a button that runs this action that you have defined. You can see there's many things here, and we go into detail on these, and this is where you start to get more into the complex workflows and why Nitro Studio is so capable of replacing legacy programs such as InfoPath and all those other ones we discussed earlier, Lotus Notes, and really producing the kind of workflows that are necessary to keep the application moving through to completion. One other custom action might be send to engineering, for example, and move it over to engineering. Another, any kind of action you want. I mean, it's really quite a range of capabilities. Now, we looked at the form. Here's a number of other actions. And on the form, we put this one button called escalate, but some of these actions we looked at right here, you can decide where they're going to show up. So in this one shows up on the Nitro, on the display, edit control block. I mean, if you clicked it, it will show up edit control block list viewer. So you can decide where and when that action will be available and who they're available to, actually, as a matter of fact. So that's an important part of the Nitro form. So if I want to go in and add another action, I just go add another custom action here. I go over here and select what action I want, maybe close the ticket. And then I would just change the title to close. And I can even change the image or icon I wanted to put here. There's different icons. You know, what's a good close one? I don't know. There must be one here that's good for close. It doesn't really matter. Maybe I'll put that there, or have no icon, I guess. And then it becomes up, and now you have a close button up there as well. And then save that. You're going to have two buttons up there instead of one, and you're really controlling a lot of that capabilities of how this works. Now that's with the custom actions. The workflow engine we have also here, the workflow engine runs on a more automated process based on system events. So if when the item's created, when it's modified, when it's deleted, when a certain due date is coming close, when a certain absolute time, like every first of the month or something, it's going to run the workflow automatically. So you might say, well, I don't want to have to wait to press the button to escalate it. Maybe when the due date is passed, one day passed, we'll escalate it then. And we'll escalate it automatically without any need for user input. So those are what workflows do. And a lot of workflows can automate the processes very easily. See, now we're getting where we're streamlining and automating a lot of processes by implementing workflows, custom actions that are integrated with the activity going on the form. And therefore, you can implement quite easily many kind of complex, simple or complex workflow actions. So let's say when an account ticket comes in, you might want to notify the account rep for that account that a new ticket's been created, because the rep should know that his or her account has an issue, complaint, or question. So you want to keep that person informed. That can all be done with a workflow automatically when the ticket is created, because we know it's an account ticket. We know who it's from. For that reason, we know what account a rep is associated with that account, and therefore we can take all those actions to have that happen. A consumer ticket, you might have a different workflow coming in. When an issue comes in, you might just send an email back. Of course, you always want to auto reply to the user. Thank you for your ticket. Thank you for your request, whatever. We'll get back to you, and then keep that person regularly informed and of status changes or whatever you want to do during the life of the ticket, so that a consumer doesn't call up or wonder what's going on and that kind of thing. So this is just, I'm talking about a customer support system here, but really it could be anything. It could be purchasing, contract renewal, it could be a help desk, it could be a service desk. Really, many flexibility, much flexibility in this program. And really, it depends how you construct your form, how you construct your actions in order to do it. And it's where, when you look at that catalog of InfoPath forms, you say, oh, what do we have this doing already? Or you look at your Lotus Notes, or you look at whatever legacy program you're using. How can we automate this? Well, by tying together the forms, what controls are on here, what actions are taken, what workflows kick off, you can put that into automation. And not only that, whether you're doing it like by clicking a button, or by sending out notices, or by workflows that run automatically, you're able to really streamline and accelerate the request management process, the request resolution process, and also integrate with other systems. Let me show you just a segue for a moment, a slightly different kind of form. So you show the range of capabilities with this Nitro Studio Forms Designer. This one was some university gave us this InfoPath form and gave us an InfoPath form, and we created this one in our Nitro Forms Designer. A nice, clean, simple form. Student complaint about something, so we have to keep a record of it. We put information up here, information here. All this is in here. And what's interesting is that if you select the student, it's going to fill in other information here. Right now, this is from a list because we couldn't connect. In the demo, we don't connect to their real database, but in the form that's actually in use, it connects to the database in real time and pulls in information about the person. But you see the kind of different ways you can construct these forms and make them look the way you feel they need to look here, right? And you could do different selections and involve this kind of stuff. So many possibilities on how the form can look and how it's going to be displayed and what's going to happen with this data once it's submitted to it. So that's one example. Another example besides the ones I'm showing you about these tickets. I'm just saying that because I don't want to get stuck on this whole idea of, oh, this is just a customer support thing. This can take any range of HR forms, IT forms, facilities, purchasing, administrative, office supplies. One recent one we've been doing lately is Amazon Prime requests, where the company has to go through everybody in the company has to go through one Amazon Prime administrator. New job title, you got a degree in Amazon Prime, I guess is going to be a new college degree or something. But anyways, this Amazon Prime administrator is the person who all the requests go to that person, and then that person does the actual ordering through Amazon to get it. So this is a new one, who would have thought, but there you go. And so it's very flexible for that kind of internal or external processing. So going back to the Forms Designer, we can go through this in any, I'm sure people have questions. Anytime we show it, people say, can it do this? Can it do that? And I'm not talking interactively with you on this webinar, but in a one-on-one conversation with our team, we can explain this in more detail. Can it do this? Can it do that? So while we're here on this webinar, let's go in a little bit more detail on what this form designer can do. Now, we haven't gone into the advanced section here where you have lookup to different lists, different, whether it's in the same site or another site. You can have these cross-site lookups, advanced lookups with search. If you're looking up from a help desk ticket to an asset, you might only look up the ones that are associated with the person who filled out the original request. So it wouldn't be every asset, it just would list the assets that have been associated with the person filling the request. Associated items, same idea. You can add custom JavaScript, custom CSS, and then you can start to do a little more design at that level with how this form looks. Back to the actions here. Let's go over to the edit item. Continue without saving here, yes. And it's really simple to publish this. If I was going to publish it, I just go here and publish it, and it would show up in this tickets list in the, automatically, and already it's there. So, but in the edit mode, you can go into script and submit actions. Okay, this is an interesting one. I'll spend a little bit of time on. So, for instance, if someone fills out information, you might want to run a script that goes out, queries a database, whatever, and pulls some other information in or takes some other action. So if you put in a script action, you can now have a button somewhere in the form. Of course, give it a different name, what it's doing, where it's aligned, what images, and then run some script here that we have some examples of it here, example page of the different things. But what we're doing here, it's interesting because we're in the context of SharePoint and in the context of this list, we're in the form, we're getting information. So what happens is you can take that, pass it as a query to a database or a web service, return back information, and then get that information into the form so that you can then have this connection that is very powerful, say for a membership system or other type activity that's going to bring in information into the form. So I just wanted to point that out. You can also go in and add, what happens with save. You can come in here and replace these save buttons with other buttons here by putting in let's go here to the actions, put in a submit action down here. And then with that submit action, you can replace the save and have it run scripts when the form is saved. A little bit more higher end, a little bit more script related, but just showing there's a lot of capabilities inside these forms that we can go into more detail if you're interested or that applies to your particular situation there. So that's a lot on the forms. I mean, you can do other things, themes, colors. I mean, it's all kinds of interesting things going on here. But let's go, since the webinar is only so long, let's go into some other activities here. Let's look at the workflow manager. I talked about custom actions because custom actions can be put into the form, into the UI, so that when the person working the ticket, request, problem, whatever, can take actions by pressing buttons according to what you define: escalate, close, assign to someone else, forward to engineering, all kinds of interesting things. These workflows run on more automatic processes. So let's take just a quick look at this. This is really an important part of the Nitro Studio, but we'll take a quick look. And again, I just want to encourage, I know it's a webinar, it's only so much interaction, there's questions, but the thing is, a one-on-one demo is great. We were just in LA and Charlotte, North Carolina last Saturday. Next week we'll be in Seattle, SharePoint Fest. I mean, we're at a lot of these shows. If you ever a chance to come to one of them, come say hi, talk about the issues, but also more important, even just email, call, we'll work these things out. I mean, we're very engaged in the community. We're very engaged with you. This is what we do all day long, and we really want to make sure we're a success so that we get this effective and efficient processing of request management through SharePoint and Office 365 available for you so your business can run more smoothly. I mean, You know, we all like, this is fun to do, but you know, people like to do other things. So if you can do things more efficiently, effectively, you can spend your time, your weekends doing other things besides managing a system that's all funky, you know? I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a segue there. But hey, this is a new one. Let's just do a sample here, you know, do a test one so I can show you what's going on. Select the tickets list. Lots of fun with this stuff if you're kind of into, you know, hobby, power user, development kind of things like I am. Anyway, item is created, items modified, deleted. And just a segue there, you don't need to know C# or Visual Studio or anything like that to do this. Our developers do, and you know, God bless them for that, but you don't need to know that to run this. And that's why we've made this interface to give you the ability, very powerful ability, without coding, without having to dig into all that coding and all that stuff. Anyway, so when items created, something can happen. Items modified, such as status changes, or it's closed, items deleted, or when it's closed, based on a certain date or time in there, such as due date, whatever field you want to put in, a response due, a contract expiration date, whatever. And then you can say so many minutes before, repeat, and do some action. So this is the trigger. This is what we call the trigger. So in another one, you know, it could be every July 1st, do something, every first of the month. So the trigger happens, and then you can really refine it by adding conditions, all kinds of conditions, such as who did it, what's the priority, where's the category. Category is used quite often, equals such and such. One of these different categories, you can come in and equal, not equal, empty, who it is, whatever, and then run what workflows you want when that happens. So let's go here and see all the kinds of different ones. You can create an item, and you can run multiple of these, of course, at once. It's not just one of them. You could a whole series of actions. So create an item, update an item. Sometimes you update the current item. Somebody sends in a high priority ticket. You want the due date to be tomorrow. Well, you have to update the item with tomorrow. Then you go out and send an email to, you know, whoever's in charge of high priority tickets, and yada yada yada. So you do all that. You can send an email, a move item, query a list, and get some other variables that you can use in later workflows. Manage permissions, invoke other workflows. I mean, so all kinds of things can be done in this workflow manager that make the actions happen. This is a part of our Nitro Studio capabilities here. So we're in back in here. We looked at forms, workflows, custom actions. So let's look at some of the other things we have going on here. Advanced approvals, lookups, branding, cascade lookup. You see, it's a whole wealth of capabilities that Crocan software has come up with. So we say, such as forms and workflow. It's a whole set of application creation platform that's going to give you the full enchilada here, you know, the full capabilities to do this. So we haven't looked at reporting, but I do want to look at Power Portal and tell you a little bit about that and how that comes in here. What we found, and just give you some background, this kind of interface is interesting. It's good. People, you know, can use it, but really, let's be honest, for your average everyday end user, do you really want to go back here to fill out tickets and stuff like that? Most of the time we find the answer is no. That probably is a better way to do it. So we developed this whole portal system. So let me go here and show you a portal, application portal. This is the Power Portal in action. So this Power Portal here is creating tickets. It's giving the end user a nice, friendly interface to create tickets that then go into that back end. And the same workflows, the same things can happen that we talked about earlier, as well as the same form. Now, this form here of submitting a ticket has been worked in the portal forms section here to look like this. It's got the same account, you know, here we go, Bob's Woodworking Shop with Magnus Erickson as the, you know, contact, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in another iteration of this, we could do this such that the person logging in is actually an account manager, you know, a person outside your organization who has an account to log in, and that would pull in the information automatically about the person. Anyway, that's on customer side. On employee side, it would just know who you are just because you are logged in as that employee. Ticket details, category, all this is pulling from the back end. Submit it, it's going to go there. And this person only has to worry about tickets that he or she submitted or person in his company submitted. And then they can come here and look at the list of tickets and sort it by different you know, criteria here as to what tickets they see. So that way they don't have to there's no interaction with the back. In fact, one of the values of this portal is the security isolation from the back end. So this person only has ability to see tickets that you allow him or her to see, because you're putting in security saying only show tickets where the requester equals this person, or the requester's company equals this person's company, things like that. Also, you can provide them with a knowledge base that they can come in and search articles and then get answers to, like, how do you glue end grain joints or something like that, whatever service or everything you're providing. How do you update HR benefits? How do you do this? How do you do that? So that can all be done right here, preempting the need to create a ticket. So that's a pretty cool way to automate things. Now, the thing is, with this program, you can have many different kinds of interfaces. So I'm going to show you several portals here. Here's a portal. Here's another kind of portal, another kind of portal, another kind of portal. Many ways you can construct these portals to have the look and feel you want here. We have a place to put in quick links where they can click this and get a ticket about a billing issue or a freight issue. They can have FAQs right here. This is done and managed by our portal settings. And as an administrator, you've got a lot of range of capability to come in here and make this look the way you want. Right now, we have an image of this. You could change the logo. You can change a lot of the construction of what's going on up here. You have a different logo. That's the footer menu. The background image, if you want to use a different color, now it's using a gradient, but if you want to just use a simple color, you could. Let's just go color, change it to white, save settings, and the background would become white now. That's a UI thing. There's also forms that you come in and manipulate the forms to be how you want. So if we go here and say that's that, and go back to the portal home, well, we have to, there it is, white, for instead of the other color gradient that was there. Now we change it to white. And you can do this with all these different tiles. It's very, very configurable. You come in here and in fact, I'll put that back in, that color gradient. Save settings. Okay, and then you have what the home page looks like, what these quick links, what they're like, how many tiles there are, what the tiles go to. You have the pages, you have configuration of the forms, the themes, the security settings. So a lot of capabilities to manipulate this the way you want. So I just went back to that color gradient there, that kind of yellowish, whatever color there, that's going to do it. So the basic summary of this whole webinar is that, yes, you can replace your InfoPath forms or any of those other legacy programs with a very efficient system inside of SharePoint and Office 365 based on our Nitro Studio. And one person may ask, I don't know, I looked at the questions, but is it mobile friendly? And you say, yeah, of course. Because look at this. You just catch it down to, this size, and now we got the hamburger menu, and you're looking at this nice, form inside of representative of a mobile device, I guess you could say, right here. So here you can submit a ticket, and you can manipulate the form to be more friendly if you wanted to replace some of these fields. But here is what it looks like on a mobile device. Same data, same stuff, but there it is, hamburger menu and all that. So it's very responsive back to whatever form factor you're using, whether it's tablet, smartphone, desktop, very flexible. This is something that InfoPath is known for not having available, is mobile capabilities. Anyway, I mean, who cares? An InfoPath is getting deprecated. It's time to move off, It's deprecated for those reasons I stated earlier. And, let's talk. I mean, we could do this whole InfoPath replacement or Lotus Notes or whatever, or even whether it's one form or we have one project with 100 forms we're doing right now. So whatever is appropriate for your organization, we can come in and use this very powerful Nitro Studio program that we developed over these many years in order to make it happen for you. And you get all these apps available to you to use to create these forms and workflows and reporting that are available to make the application work the way you want. Now, to get involved with this, very easy, no problem. You come here to our, we have two websites. Well, it's really the same, but one is Nitro Studio, one is our Crow Canyon software. You can either click here or just go directly to Nitro Studio. has information here. We're building out more and more resources and information, but basically you can come in and get a free 30-day trial or request a live demo. We really like to talk to people. I mean, we go to the shows, we talk with people all day, email and phone, because we're really involved in trying to help organizations, whether it's profit, nonprofit, government, education, doesn't matter, all over the world, to move to more efficient request management systems. I mean, I can't believe people are still using paper forms or things like that, email, to manage really critical business processes. It's time, it's here, it's available, you can do it. And we can help you with the 30-day, with this Nitro Studio, build innovative applications, or go with our out-of-the-box applications. I mean, it's just so much more efficient way to run things, and we have a lot of success, a lot of successful stories, a lot of people using this, and that's what we like seeing. That it makes us happy to know we're providing something really useful and really functional for people that they're satisfied with. So it's an ongoing conversation like that. Right now, it's just about 50 minutes into it. That's usually enough with a webinar. If there's some questions we can answer, we can do that. Oh, boy, I didn't even cover all these other things with Nitro Studio. Well, we'll have to do that some other time, but there's reporting, branding, cascade lookup, email integration, email syncs, printing. Printing's a big one. User info filler. Oh boy. All right. Well, we only have so much time, and we could do perhaps another webinar or talk to us, do a demo. And now let's go over and check out some questions here. James, are you in on this? The question answerer? Are we getting our questions answered here? I don't know if you're on speaker.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm getting these questions answered as they come in.
Okay. Anything that sticks out that might want to share with everyone, or?
Well, they're sharing the answers, but the one question we had was about whether the forms could be, or whether Nitro Studio would work on Internet Explorer and Edge, and the answer is yes. We fully test our product on both of those browsers, and we do support both of those browsers in addition to Chrome, which is what the demo was in today. There was a question about the mobile responsiveness, but I think we showed that in the demo as well. But there is, these forms are mobile responsive. And then we had another question about, which I'm in the process of answering now, about the being able to print forms.
Oh, so, I could dig into that right now. Yeah.
You can show that really. Yeah, exactly. You can get into that.
Yeah, I want to go into that. All right. Yeah, that's a good question. And it is really, it's really part of it. So we have our printing, also have our print settings. You can do a list template or an item template for that printing. And then when you press print, I'm in a list view right now. We have this print manager. You can select the template you chose. So you go to all items, and then you could arrange this template many. This is a lot of fields in this one. Let's do overdue tickets. Here's a little different. These templates are examples. Here's repeating rows. You have these fields in here. You can export it you can print it, export it to PDF, save it as an image, email it out. But let's go look at the, and there's many ways to construct that. So let's go to print settings and take a look at the print settings, because those are examples. So here's a template. This is printing a list, and this is printing an item. So you print a list here, and you're going to decide how you want it to look with the styles, header, footer, QR. Well, that's for some things like assets, QR code, barcode. So it's you have a view called overdue tickets, so it's only going to print the overdue tickets. It's a table with selected. It uses filter columns. So let's look at the different styles. We're repeating odd and even rows. And one was blue, yellow, could be gray, whatever. How the text is aligned, how it looks. And then really good is what you can put here for the header and footer. This is interesting right here. You can put in the header or the footer information. This says overdue tickets, but you can put a lot more information, images, whatever. I think we just had one where there was an image in the printout, footer, printed on such and such day, whatever. And that's going to control what the list printout looks like. Now, if you go over here to item prints, it's the same idea, but here you have, a bit more, because this can get into printing out invoices or other things where you go in and decide what fields and how they're going to be placed and what they're going to look like here. So let's go look at the print of a particular item right here. So if we open up one of these tickets, a particular ticket, and do printing, up here in the menu, there should be a print option, and see what that looks like. and how that, I haven't looked at this. I'm not quite sure how it's going to turn out, but let's take a look. Yeah, well, I mean, you can go from there and make it more elaborate if you want. You can do a lot. You can add CSS, JavaScript, but basically the question is yes, you can control the answer to the question is yes, you can control the printing and the layout and the look very, very much, very specifically to be how you want just by going into the print manager and making the templates constructed and modified how you want, create a new template, whatever. So I hope that answers the question. And, if you have a particular printing style or need you want, present it to us, present the challenge. We'll see if we can do it and how it's going to look in there. All right. Okay, good. That's it. If there are any other questions, you can always email us, you talk to us, download a demo, a trial, do a live demo one-on-one for you. But with that said, I do appreciate your time, taking the time to come to this webinar and explore how Crow Canyon can help you get off legacy programs such as InfoPath and move to a more modern, effective, active, engaging, all those good words, platform such as Nitro Studio. So appreciate it. Thank you. Hope to see you either through email or phone calls or at one of the shows, and we'll be able to talk in more detail. Thank you very much for attending. I hope to have a nice rest of the day. Thank you.